Hello, fellow friends and family. My name is Josh, and welcome back to another video. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been a fan of the Monster Hunter franchise for freaking over 10 years now, which is crazy to me to think about it, because it was like back in 2010. I'll get into the whole spiel and story about it, but since this channel got its first major boost from a Monster Hunter video, I think it was, I know it was my top 10 favorite monsters from the Monster Hunter franchise. That was like, I don't even know, like a couple years ago. I thought it would be appropriate to talk about the history of my experience with the franchise, you know? I was gonna save this for like a sub-special, but, you know, I'm gonna whip it out now, because why not? I feel like talking about it. So yeah, let me start where it all began. Let's go all the way back to GameStop in 2010 with Monster Hunter 3 Try on sale for 10 bucks. I was looking around for new games. I saw Monster Hunter 3 Try. I brought it up to the desk. I asked the guy about it. He told me about the basics. It was obvious he didn't know much about it, but he's like, yeah, you hunt monsters with your buddy Cha-Cha, and it's a pretty fun game, I would say. At least that's what I remember. So I asked my mom. I call her up because I was like 10 at the time, and I was like, hey, can I get this game? She's like, yeah, sure. So I was with my sister at the time, and then so we went home, and I played that game all day, and pretty much the rest was history. And honestly, I think starting with Try was a good roll on the dice, because it had a mixture of the evolving combat in the series, because Freedom Unite had kind of the basic controls, and honestly, if I started there, I might not have actually gotten to the series. I don't know, like I really don't know, but with Try, the combat, the weapons, the monsters, things like that, I think it was a really good starting Monster Hunter game. At least from my perspective, it was. And I think it was also good that it only went into high rank. And not that G rank would scare me, but I don't know. Just, you know, it was a nice simplified game that I spent hours and hours on. A little short story is that back in, and I think I already shared this story on the channel, but for those of you who don't remember the story or haven't heard it, basically, I think it was 6th grade, I had something called walk-in pneumonia. It isn't as bad as regular pneumonia, but it's pretty bad. And so what happened was I missed the entire first 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks? I can't really remember. It was either the first week or the first 2 weeks I missed the first 2 weeks of 6th grade, right? And so during that time, I was catching up on work, getting stressed out. And so basically, those 2 weeks were getting better, doing work, and just playing Monster Hunter as much as I could. And it was really fun, honestly, when I think about it. And yeah, I just really enjoyed Monster Hunter 3 Try. And then a couple years later, as you all know, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate came to the 3DS and the Wii U. At the time, I didn't have a Wii U, so I had to get it on my 3DS. And I actually got it for my birthday from one of my used-to-be friends. I'm obviously not friends with them anymore, and I think that's pretty much the only useful thing that came out of that relationship. You know who you are. But yeah, we went back to my house, and my ex-friend, if you want to put it that way, and my best friend from my childhood, and we're still best friends today, we all the three of us went back to my house, and we just played it all night. And it was a lot of fun. I guess my nerdy self, I just couldn't put the game down. They both did after a while, but I just couldn't. It was such a major jump that went from loving the franchise to pretty much obsessing over it, which has its good and its bad sides. Because personally, from my perspective, what I mean by obsessing over it, I mean like I played it every single day for hours on end, because I didn't really have that many responsibilities. Like, I was a child, obviously, so I could just play it all day. And yeah, it was pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie, but it was fun though. I actually got so obsessed that I wanted to make a homemade book about all the monsters in the series. And like, how dumb could I be? I was basing it off of a website that already had all the information I needed about the game. So there was no reason for me. My computer turned off. I can't read my script. Okay. No, but like it was such a stupid thing to do, because I'm like, there's a site I'm looking off of to make this book. where pretty much everything is already sourced and organized. I don't know, just, you know, I was being weird. But anyways, I obviously dropped that because I was lazy, and then, excuse me, and then a couple years later, we get into Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, arguably the best Monster Hunter game, honestly. Even up to right now with Iceborne, I would argue that it has its benefits that Iceborne does not have at all. And I can't remember, it's either I was close to or I did max out the hours on that game, 100%. And the only other game that I know for a fact that I maxed out the hours on was Pokemon Soul Silver. So you know that, you obviously love a game to the point where it's pretty much a bad thing for your health when you max out the hours. And I did on 4 Ultimate. It was a really fun game. And I played it all the time on car rides, watching TV at home. It was pretty much day in, day out. It had a huge variety of monsters, some new amazing weapons. Holy crap, I think at the time, it was so long ago, so I can't really remember. I think it was the Charge Blade and the Insect Glaive. Yes, I used both those weapons, and I loved both of them. The Charge Blade, and that's pretty much where my love of the Charge Blade began, because that was the first game it showed up in, and I can say that, yeah, I'm a Charge Blade main, and it started in 4 Ultimate. On top of all this, it had some really crazy jumping attacks, mounting, like you never think to see in a Monster Hunter game. It was just a fantastic time, and it also brought some old monsters that I've never fought before, like Gravios, which was really fun, Rajang, and then of course some others that I really didn't care for, like Gypsaros and freaking Kezu, nobody cares about. But yeah, I honestly could say that that was probably the best initial jolt of excitement I had for a game when I started playing it. It was seriously so good. And then we get into Monster Hunter Generations. Good entry for the series. I just think not as good as the other Monster Hunter games I mentioned. I'm not here to complain. I played the heck out of Generations, obviously, and I still obviously love the game as well. I just didn't think personally it was as good as 4 Ultimate, 3 Try, or even 3 Ultimate. I just, it's on the bottom of the list, but it isn't like my least favorite game of all time, if that makes sense. But yeah, so Generations introduced deviants, hunter arts, hunter styles, new monsters. It added its own new flair that a lot of people, including myself, really enjoyed. It was very good, and I think this is when I started making YouTube content. I can't remember, but I actually made a series on YouTube about the deviants, because I love it when gaming franchises take old concepts and add new twists to them. Like in Pokemon, there's Alolan and Galarian forms. I love that idea. And in Monster Hunter, they did the same thing with the deviants. So it was really awesome. And then there was, of course, Generations Ultimate, which I never actually really got to play because I didn't have a Switch at the time. And then later on, I did get a Switch, and then I got Generations Ultimate, but I returned it because at the time I was playing Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and the new mechanics that it had, it made the game and the combat so smooth. So going back to an old Monster Hunter game, it was, I don't know, it didn't feel right, and it felt kind of boring, to be honest. And then of course we move on to Monster Hunter World, not Iceborne, but just the basic game at first. And honestly, I have to say that it was a bit of a disappointment at first. Still a great game, and I loved it, but I do like the fact that they went back on console from Monster Hunter 3 Try. I don't know, like, it had its unique flair to it, but it lost the Monster Hunter charm. I don't know how to put it, but, like, Monster Hunter 3 Try, 3 Ultimate, 4U, Generations, even Generations, as different as it was, it still felt like Monster Hunter. And then we get to Monster Hunter World, and it's just this huge jump, and it felt so different. I don't know, like, it's still a great game. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it lost the Monster Hunter charm that I grew up with. But I do get it. Series do have to evolve over time because they want to try new things. They don't want to just give us the same old, you know, type of stuff. Because eventually it does get, eventually it does get boring. It kind of makes me wish that we did have Frontier in the West, because I would honestly be willing to give it a try. With the monsters in the Frontier series, oh my goodness, I would take the Frontier monsters over our monsters any day of the week. seriously, they have some of the best designs I've ever seen. And like, you see how flamboyant they are with their attacks and combos, and I'm like, why don't we have that? Iceborne actually brought a couple of those things in there. I can't really think of any on the bat. Well, actually, there was Safi Jiva with its nuke, and then there was the Behemoth with its comet or whatever. You know, a couple of attacks like that. Frontier had like every single monster with some type of like AoE that almost killed you or just was an instant KO. But actually, well, besides Frontier, Iceborne, it made things so much better. You had Master Rank, you had new monsters, and you had old monsters make a comeback with their own unique twist to add to what Monster Hunter World was at the time, because like I said, it's very different, so they had to kind of configure the old monsters in a way that made them more attractive in that scenery. And then of course you have the constant updates that, you know, keep the game fresh and new every now and then. But like I said, it just feels way different, but I still love the game. It is easily one of my favorite modern games as of right now. And that kind of brings us up to speed. You know, I'm just kind of waiting for a latch round, or at this point, a new Monster Hunter game. I don't know if we're going to get one soon, or if it's going to take a while. Maybe we'll get one on the PS5. I really don't know, but I'm excited for what Capcom has to bring. I seriously am. Maybe something like Frontier. I don't know. Like, I've been obsessing over the Frontier series recently because I really do miss it. Because, a quick side story before I wrap up. My friend Tato and I, we decided to try and play Frontier Z, and it took me like months to finally get Frontier on my computer. What turns out was I had this antivirus system, and I had to like permanently disengage it so that the game could run. And after like a couple of weeks, it said that the servers were going to shut down, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I spent all this time trying to get this game, and then they're gonna shut down the servers in a couple of weeks." And it really sucked. It really did, because I think at that point it was the waiting period in between Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, but we didn't have any news about Iceborne at the moment, so I was like, well, this is it for my Monster Hunter days as of right now. But, you know, they shut down servers. That obviously means that they're working on something else. Maybe it was Iceborne, maybe it was something else, I'm not sure. But regardless, I'm excited for the future, and hey, tell me about your experience with the Monster Hunter franchise. I would love to hear about that. Maybe like what your favorite game from the series is, or what your first one was. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next video.